everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Community Podcast. On today's show, we have Natalya Hanna from Uptown Notaries. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you for inviting.
Well, thank you. I've been looking forward to this podcast. Tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Natalya Hanna, like you mentioned, and I'm a local notary public at Uptown Notaries. It's a long story when the company started, but I'm as existing owner, been there probably for the last 6 years. However, the company been around more than 35 years, so imagine that.
Wow, that's a long time. So you took over it?
Yes, I took over it, and it's been quite an interesting process. But I made it, I survived, and now I own 2 offices. One is Burquitlam and another one in New West.
Well, that's awesome. Both busy, flourishing areas right now, especially like Burquitlam has grown drastically in the last little while, but New West has always been quite busy. So
Yes.
great areas to run your business, right?
Yes, and we're in the heart of those new constructions, new buildings, and that's so great because clients can easily find us and reach out. We have a lots of inquiries, walk-in clients, and we're always happy to answer their questions.
Well, how did you get involved in notary?
That's a good question. My career in the legal field started way back, maybe like 20 years ago when I got my law degree overseas. And in Canada, I moved here 11 years ago with my husband and my family. And shortly after, I understood that I want to go back to my legal field. And I started searching, and notary profession came up. So I went to the studies, went back to the university. It's basically 2 years master's degree at SFU, which I did. And right after, I jumped into busy practice.
Oh, well, I know, like, as someone who's gone to notaries in the past, it's something that, like, maybe when you're younger, a teenager, you have no idea what they are, really. And then once you get to become an adult, and then it can become something very regular in your life for many different reasons. Difficult job, I would say, just knowing that, like, as someone who's purchased a home before and gone through that, like, the amount of paperwork that's involved. How is it being the one person that actually reads every word on those things?
I know. I'll give you a secret. I'm not only one there, right? I have amazing supporting staff. And of course, my girls are amazing. They do a lots of preps for me. But of course, I'm the one who signs off on the deal, checks everything, sits with client, right? We register at land title office. Of course, the responsibility is high. You have to make sure there's no mistakes, because guess what? People are buying or selling or refinancing their properties. Most of the time, it's the biggest transactions in their lifetimes. And of course, the accuracy is important. So of course, everything that is done in my office is supervised by me. And I think for those who are watching us and probably thinking about notary profession, I think the most important part is have that so-called attention to details, right? You have to have an eye for the documents and potentially see where the problems might come up, because it's all about solving the problems. That's what we notaries do.
Oh yeah, and it's how things are worded on there, right? It's something that someone like me could totally miss. Even just it could be just how the order that it's written in. You guys are the ones that catch that, and I've had it happen where the notary has caught something and been like, no, you really need to go back to the drawing board on this one. You should not agree to this. So, very important position, but. Is it something that's like part of your job that it's kind of rewarding when you almost find those mistakes?
It is rewarding, absolutely. And sometimes we have, real estate transactions. It's just one of the things that we do, right? We do lots of estate planning for our clients. And sometimes it's heartbreaking stories that we see. We go to hospitals, and of course, when you see that you were able to help clients in the difficult times, it's absolutely rewarding. But now it's very interesting transaction that I'm doing where I'm helping man to get married in Vietnam. And it's a last minute paperwork that we have to process. We have to send this to apostille. We're on a deadline and we really want to make sure that he gets married there, and we really, expediting this process. And when, we succeeded in something, that's such a amazing feeling.
Oh, I could only imagine. I know, like, it's got, like you said, there's stuff that can be almost negative in people's lives why they're coming to a notary, but there's also people that are coming there for very positive reasons. When it could be like buying a home for the first time, seeing a young couple doing that, but then there's also like the negative sides of it. So is it kind of nice having that balance, or dealing with those positive stories more so than the negatives that come along with law?
I call what we're doing, and that's also one of the reasons I became a notary, is that we deal with a happy law, right? But at the same time, people are stressed because there are so many things going on when we process real estate transactions. We're on the deadlines, so people are stressed. But, and that's all about calming them down, making sure everything will be in time, because we know our steps, right? We know what must be followed, what we need. And if we don't have that piece, we want to make sure we'll receive it in time. So, of course, it's a happy law because there is no litigation, but there is a stress that's coming from like people, right? And we're the ones that oftentimes taking their hand and just walking through the process. And, when they see us calm, everything goes fine.
Yeah. I know, like you said, you have the 2 offices. That means you probably have 2 groups of great staff working with you. How much do you like rely on? Is it a team effort? Like, yeah, you were talking earlier, like you have a team that goes over everything, but like, how is it having this team that might have each other's backs too when it comes to like, you could miss something, they might not. There's these things that can happen. Just, I mean, anybody can miss anything at certain times. You don't get enough sleep one night, and being in notary, that could be actually quite challenging if you didn't get that sleep, right?
Yeah, definitely. The possibility of mistake, of course, exists, right? Because we're all humans. And sometimes there are mistakes, we're all humans. Of course, I rely a lot on my staff when we process things, but certain things, I review them personally, right? And I will not allow my staff to do that for me. Right? In event that mistake happens, and we've done this in the past, unfortunately, sometimes, like last time, we did a sale and client signed via power of attorney. Power of attorney wasn't prepared by our office, but the lawyer who did it, unfortunately, did a mistake there. So power of attorney was defected, and we had to solve that problem. So sometimes you just, one thing at a time, let's see what we can do, how to fix it. And I usually tell my staff, we can solve it as long as, we know what's going on, and let's take things calm. And usually, we have very positive attitude at the office, and that's what I like, because, we work with people and we want to make sure the job is done, but we don't want it to overwhelm ourselves with all taking this stress personally. See what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I know, like we were talking, human error can happen, but I don't know if this has affected your industry at all. I know we work with multiple different industries within our co-working space here, but AI, documentation, how much are you seeing, like, almost like just documents changing, almost like they're looking a lot more similar to one another in a way, because people are using AI programs to write really, really important documents now, and thinking, oh, the AI can do it for me and it's going to get it all right. But people don't realize that humans program AI. So are you seeing like kind of a trend of seeing a lot more documents that look like they're done by AI?
Talking about AI, I will tell you a small secret. I am the first notary who implemented AI in my practice. Okay. So if you guys go to my website, uptownnotaries.ca, we have Alina, who is my AI agent, and you can chat with her. You can ask questions. You can ask for prices, and you can even book an appointment. It's extremely helpful for my business. Of course, Lena, was designed by the developer who worked exclusively with my company, right? So she knows, and she will give answers specifically designed to my company. She would not talk to any other notaries or lawyers. So, and she's on training. We constantly improve her. But answering your question, yes, AI is highly present in our world right now. But it's all about, in my industry, we can trust and rely on those sources, but we can have to always double check and make sure this information is accurate. It's as per law, and it says what it must say. Right. But of course, we don't generate documents created by AI, because we have our own certain land title forms, mandatory forms, or the standard forms that we use. So that's not really something applicable for us. But sometimes I personally use AI to, if I'm writing something and I will give some ideas to AI, it will generate, because you have to use it also wisely, right? You can't 100% rely. But as a starting point, I think it's a great tool, and why not?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that are scared of AI. There is some people that think it's going to take over their jobs, and they're very paranoid of it. But in reality, it's the people running it. And I feel like if you're the person that knows how to use AI to its best capabilities, you're going to stand out from the rest of the crowd. Absolutely. That's like kind of weary and staying away from the fact of using it. But it's nice to hear that you are using it. It helps out so much in everyday business. And just having the chat bots and everything too, that it helps businesses greatly, like in extreme amounts. Obviously, we're very pro AI here. I ask this question a lot because it comes up a lot in just multiple different industries, and I've gone to presentations about it where you have half the crowd, if it's a Q&A, just attacking it, and half the other people being like, no, it's here to stay. We need to use it. I just think it gets to a point, like when you can go onto something like ChatGPT and just like write me a contract, and it could be a 50-page contract. I know people that will think, oh, one prompt, I'm good to go. But in reality, you still have to read all the stuff.
I'm sure there is AI for law, right? You can get a really good stuff out of there. But again, it's, as for me as a legal professional, its ultimate responsibility is that document could be used. It's valid, right? I'll give you an example with powers of attorney. I'm talking about powers of attorney a lot today. Lots of people come to us and they, let's say, did their own power of attorney. Probably they use ChatGPT, right? And they want us to sign this document. Normally, we won't be able to do that. And it's because my bank told me go to a notary and sign, right? There is certain requirements. They must be there. So as a legal professional, we must ensure and it's there. And it's not only about drafting the document, right? We have to speak to a person, make sure they have capacity. There is lots of things there. So, yes, you could use it, like you said, we can generate stuff, but as a legal professional, there's so many other things to ensure that this document is legit, it will work for their purposes.
Yeah, that's awesome. You say you worked in law overseas, and then you came to Canada. How is it different in many ways? You have to kind of almost relearn everything?
Yes. Even though I had my law degree, but it wasn't accepted there. Basically, I still had to go through studies again.
Wow. Yeah, and I guess the law is different, right?
It's different.
It's different.
It's very different.
It must be. I mean, like you hear about that a lot. People immigrating to Canada with high levels of education or just degrees, and having to either retake it completely when they get over here, or at least sprucing it up a bit. But it's great to see that you did that. But it must have been challenging. Did you know English before you came over?
Yes,
You did.
yes,
Lucky.
It's not like I started. Yeah, to enter specifically notary program, you need to have a bachelor degree, right, and experience in this area. So because this is master's degree, so obviously your English should be at a certain level.
Yeah. Where would you say, like, if somebody were wanting to get involved in notary, where locally, let's say, where's somewhere they'd want, like, the top places to go for that?
You mean
Schooling?
Well, yeah, they need to get their bachelor degree first, right? It's not necessary. It could be anything, right? Yeah, and then work in the industry as assistant, gain the knowledge about the industry, and then you can apply to SFU. It's actually, I was featured by SFU as one of the successful graduates, and there is even article there you can read. But actually, the process is not that difficult. Of course, there is lots of paperwork around it, but once you apply to SFU, you get accepted. You are also screened by the Society of Notaries BC. Once you're approved, then you start your education for 2 years, and then there is a practical program. And one of these practical programs, you have to go through the mentorship with existing notaries. So since last year, I started mentoring students, and that's really also exciting for me that I can give back and, teach something that I learned over the years and show them my expertise. So that's also talking about, that's quite rewarding, to share your knowledge.
How was it going? You said you came over here with your family. How was it going back to school with the family?
Yeah, it was, but again, thanks to my husband, he allowed me to have that time. When we came to Canada at that time, my boys were 3 years old and like 18 months, so pretty small. So of course it was challenging. Like now I have 3 kids. Now I have a daughter as well, which also was an interesting story how I got her like in the middle of busy practice, making sure that all checks, there's no sign, no interruptions. But of course, it has its own challenges, right? But, I always say if you really want something, nothing can stop you.
Yeah, I know. I'm a parent myself, so I like feel for those parents that like realize like their dreams still and want to go back to school during, like, people that haven't had kids don't realize that's the real full-time job. So it's doing schooling on top of probably working or at the same time is it's just amazing to see. But choosing to do that, knowing that it's the right direction, is always the way to go, to follow your heart, right? Burquitlam, is that a newer office? Is that like...
No, that's the office that's been around already like 30 years
plus.
Wow. Yeah, and it's a street level office. New West actually as well. The notary there, she sold me her practice. It's been around there for many, many years. It's just been a year now since I took over New West location.
Do you have different staff for both buildings? Yeah, nice. Yeah. So that's even better. I know there's some places that they have staff working at multiple locations, but it's nice to have permanent staff in their home location.
And I usually go like once or twice a week to New West office. There is a schedule there for me, but most of my time I spend here at the Burquitlam office.
What made you passionate about law in the first place?
My whole family comes from a law background. My mom is a lawyer. My grandfather was also involved in law a lot. So it's like it was a natural decision for me to become a lawyer. Sometimes
careers can be genetic. It's very, very true that people tend to go into the industries that their family succeeded in. So it's nice that you took, I was overseas, so coming over here and taking on like a new challenge, but also like carrying the family legacy on in a different place has got to be rewarding to yourself. Have they seen you do it over here, or are they still around?
Yeah, my mom, she actually is here with
Nice.
us. She visits us every year because she misses her grandchildren. So she comes every year. And of course, she's been a part of that process. During my studies, we discussed a lot with her, and she always supported me in that decision. So yes, it's a great support from the family, of course.
Have you seen changes in what people are coming to you for in the last few years? It's been an interesting few years, specifically like seeing a lot of people, less money, less homes being bought, people losing their homes. So are you seeing like a whole influx of almost different kinds of basically?
You know, of course, there are certain times of the year there where we have a peak of real estate. So I would say from March to October, we have a lot of real estate files going on. People, that's the time of the year where people relocate.
Yeah.
So they sell, they buy. During winter time, it slows down, but in those days, I see more refinance files where they change lenders, they switch banks, they do debt reconsolidation, right? Because it's tougher and tougher becomes here, right? So we do those. Estate planning's been always stable, so people always looking to set up their wills, powers of attorney, and there is always some urgent stuff that comes in, and we always help people with urgent situations. But I find wills, and I promote wills a lot. I do lots of seminars and talks and teach young families about the importance of doing their wills. So I'm really passionate about the subject, and I try to really explain, because we have a lot of newcomers every year, right? And they don't know how BC legislation works, how inheritance works in BC. So I always, try to bring this subject. I do my Instagram page. I post certain things there, talk about the subject as well. So it's also, if you want to follow us, Uptown Notaries, we will appreciate the support as well.
That's something that you hear. I hear a lot more, especially like we work with a lot of business owners, so they have a lot of assets to protect, and um, with it's always kind of been in the back of people's minds, especially young people. Oh, wills, like I'll deal with that when I'm older. Like there's no reason for that. But like, how important is it for somebody, even like in like starting a young family, could be in their 20s, 30s, not thinking about that stuff, but have children. How important is it for them to do it?
Yeah. I always say once you start accumulating assets, or even you have a bank account, that's already asset. Once you have a minor children, with children, it's like right away, you need to have a will, right? But assets, children, specific decisions about whom that would go, it definitely gives you a huge peace of mind and protection, because without it, basically what happens, it's a BC law that will identify how the inheritance and where it will go, right? And it's very costly. It's like thousands of dollars to process that. So, it's a simple document, and I teach also on those seminars how sometimes to do things yourself if you have financially difficult to go to a legal professional. So I give sometimes those tips and tricks, but essentially it's very important to will. Of course, there's so many tools there. You can even go to ChatGPT, back to that subject, right? And you can ask to create your will.
Yeah.
Again, will it be? Yeah, it will be probably professionally drafted, no doubt. But how to know whether it's a right decision to make it this way, right? And that's where legal professional come into play. They will tell you exactly what's your situation. Maybe you need to rearrange something there, right? If you want to disinherit someone, is it a good idea at all? So all of these questions, advice will be provided. But of course, it's a must. It's a must.
Is there stats out there at all for young families, like how many of them don't? Because I started in the last few years. I kind of meeting more people that say like you have to, and they know in the younger families, but there's still a good chunk of people that are.
It's a lot.
It's probably less have it than do, right?
Yeah. I think like half of the population of BC before COVID didn't have a will. After COVID, it seems like people started to, seriously thinking about that.
Yeah.
And we had a lots of requests during COVID, to process wills. But now seems we're back to normal, but things happen, and unfortunately almost once a week we get a phone call where it is too late to
Yeah.
do something like that, right? So I hate those phone calls. So it's important to think about it before something happens.
It's just like it's almost that thing, like if you don't think about getting that house insurance until you have a flood of fire or get broken into, right? It's
Absolutely.
kind of that you learn from your mistakes. Well, with a will, you can't really learn from that.
Yeah, and that's
It-
about your life, right?
Yeah.
It's not even about your house. So that's being
super
said,
important.
yeah.
Like drive that into people's minds is that it's very important. It's not just for the older people. It is definitely for people that have any assets to protect. And I'll say that as well. I'm not in any kinds of form of law, but just knowing that and realizing how important it is huge. And I really wish there's so many different things that a lot of young people, young families just don't think it's for them, but in
Absolutely.
reality, it really is, whether it be different kinds of insurance, wills, anything like that. So I definitely appreciate that you're passionate about that, because it needs to really hit young people's minds a lot more.
Yes.
So yeah, if people want to reach you,
Mm-hmm.
what's the best website? You dropped your Instagram earlier, but let us know where they can find you.
Yeah, of course. Website, uptownnotaries.ca. Like I mentioned, we have Lena there. You can already start chatting with her. And if she doesn't know, she will be the first one
Yeah.
who will tell you that we'll call you back. You can always leave your phone number. Phone number 604-420-6671. It's our Burnaby office. You can always reach me directly, or any supporting staff will assist you in your question. Email. Feel free to email me, Natalya, Natalya, at uptownnotaries.ca.
Is there anything else you'd like to say that's super important for anybody that would be coming to you, why they should choose you? There's many notaries in town, but just talking to you, I know that you can tell the passion behind you. So hopefully the people that are watching will choose you, right? So what sets you guys apart?
Well, we are fast. We're easy to work with. We understand your situation, and we, make it happen. Sometimes there is a really short deadline to do things, and I take those deals. Of course, there is always a chance that it might not complete, but in all our rush deals, we succeeded. So we really work with your timeline and to ensure that those real estate transactions are done. If it's an urgent will, I'll go to the hospital and I can do it if it's a life and death situation, we do it within 1-2 days. So, we also, actually something good to mention, that I do signings in other cities. So we are mobile. So I do signings in Langley and Vancouver cities. So it really doesn't matter for us where real estate transaction happens. You can always reach us out and we can process. Even if you travel, we can make that happen.
Yeah, we're in Port Moody here, so really Burquitlam is 5-minute drive, 10-minute drive up the hill. So being Burquitlam, it's a very central location for multiple different cities, whether it be Coquitlam, Port Moody, Burnaby, New West. You can get there pretty quickly. So I really encourage our audience to use your services. As I can tell, you're definitely passionate, and it hits close to home as a young own a home and also have a family. The services you provide, how important they are for people like me,
of course,
that people really should take advantage and understand how important it is. So I appreciate you coming on today and spreading the word, as well as just promoting your business.
Yeah.
And thank you all for watching today. This has been another edition of The Community. The guest today was Natalya Hanna. Make sure to check out her website as well as her socials we talked about earlier. They'll be in the description below. And make sure to comment and like this podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast today, let us know. We'd love to hear from you, as well as if you know anybody else that would like to be on our show, or if you'd like to be on our show, hit us up, send a message our way. We'd love to talk to you. This has been another edition of The Community. I'm Mike Arboit. My guest was Natalya Hanna from Uptown Notaries. Have a good one.